probably bored of it. So I'll tell you a story that comes to us from one of the German philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche, 19th century. It's a very difficult time because when it comes to the 19th century, you just lose so much of meaning. Christianity is challenged. Industrial revolution takes place. Villages turn into big cities. Eventually, everybody becomes a stranger because the city is so vast. You have the rise of capitalism in ways that cultures have never seen before. Nietzsche was also, supposedly, allegedly, he was homosexual. So you have a lot of things standing against him. He was also an introvert. He desperately sought meaning. And what you usually do is you want meaning that comes from the outside. You want parents who love you, but they're not there. You want to go to church because you want to believe in Jesus Christ, but the church has been destroyed by maybe 600 years of just being hammered at. You want to find meaning in yourself, but you find yourself incompetent. And so he gives us this story. You ready? And I'm going to add stuff to it. So I'm going to destroy his story and just make it my own. For those of us in this class who have children, will tell you, they're so full of life. And the saying in the Gospels, unless you become a child, you will not enter the kingdom of God. That's not the sort of kids he's talking about. But children are rotten. They break things, destroy things, they do all sorts of crazy things. But there is something about them that is just filled with life. It's destructive, but it's life nevertheless. Then one day you come home and you realize that innocence, that liveliness has gone away. They sit on the sofa and they play video games. They go to school and they get beaten up by their teachers. Do this, homework, grade, shame, embarrassment in front of the class, all that stuff. Then, not to mention the reprimands of the parents. God forbid if your parents happen to be Catholic, then you got another set of shame and guilt inside you. Then you're this child of innocence, but all of a sudden you become a camel. And what is a camel? I know you've never been to the Middle East. Camels are really good for one thing. The desert is not really occupied with anything. The only animal that can really take you across that hot sand is the camel. It can go without food, without sleep, for about 40 days. And you can just pack on it all sorts of things. You're a young man, but on your shoulders, without knowing, you have the burden of carrying American history, African American history. You also have the burden of carrying the confusion of just being young. You also have to carry the burden of needing money, finding friends, finding meaning. You're no longer the innocent child you once were. You are a camel, metaphorically speaking. You will carry all sorts of things. You may not want to, but if you want to survive, you will do it. You will also have no choice but to carry all sorts of emotions that live inside you. You may want to fend them off, but you can't. They'll come back and haunt you over and over and over again. You have no choice but to be a camel. Now, some people are going to defend how great it is to be a camel, how great it is to carry the luggage put upon them by other people. I mean, society is a beast. What the hell are you doing in this classroom? What else can you do? Where else can you go? What options really do you have in life? Do you like me? No. Do you like this class? No. Do you like other classes? No. But what other choice do you got? How are you going to make money? How are you going to secure your future? You're going to carry the burdens I am going to put on you. Your boss is going to put on you. Your parents are going to put on you. Your friends are going to put on you. Not to mention, all of us desire friends and we conform. You don't want to smoke, but they're smoking. You want them to continue hang out with you, you smoke with them. You become a camel. At a certain point, something really awful happens to you. You say to yourself, for all these years, and again, I don't really know how this happens. Now, this is the real education. I've been in academics for about 30 years. All these SLOs, PLOs, ILOs telling us how to teach, how not to teach. We don't really know how this stuff works. Jesus couldn't do it. He had 12 crummy disciples, they all betrayed him. Moses couldn't do it. Muhammad couldn't do it. What, you think I can? You think anyone on this goddamn campus can? No one knows. We all pretend. At a certain point in your life, very much like Malcolm X's life, very much like Gandhi's life, something about you opens up and says, what am I doing? Why am I carrying all this crap? For who? For what? Why should I give a shit about the grade? A grade doesn't make me. I want to write what lives inside me. I don't care if I get an F. At a certain point, that'll happen to you. You look at your boss and you say, you know what? Take this job and shove it. And what begins to happen is you begin to unload. First, your knees bend, you break. You begin to sit on the hot, scorching sand, and it's going to be painful. Now, you think it's easy to unload. It's not, because the things you've been carrying for the past 20, 30, 40 years, they make you who you are. I'm married. I'm a husband. My kids are still alive. I'm a father. I've been on this stage for 30 years. I'm an instructor. These are the bags I've been carrying. They make me who I am. Imagine if I was to get rid of them. Go home and say, wife, that's it, I'm out. Kids, I've given you enough stuff, get out. Job, screw it. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do with the emptiness? So once you unload, you're going to experience a good amount of stuff that you've never experienced before. You know, you think about going to therapy is what? You go to therapy to simply witness what lives inside you. It doesn't mean you can overcome them. You've repressed them, pushed them down. With the help of your therapist, they come up, you see them, and you won't like what you see. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to go through all the things that you see and feel, because it's not just seeing, it's feeling. And the Messiah, your intellect, comes in and says, okay, figure out what to do with this emotion, what to do with this guy, what to do with this past. And then what'll happen is you have some friends. You go to them and you say, you know, I used to be a camel. I still am to some extent, but I'm getting rid of some of the luggages. What do you guys think? And your friends will tell you, what's wrong with you, man? You're crazy? You're going to quit your job? You're going to quit school? They live through their meat. You're living through your spirit. Two different worlds, two different languages, two different passions behind the words. And then something strange is going to happen to you. When you unload, you find yourself to be free. But now you go around and you begin to ask people questions. Parents, Mom, why did you give birth to me? This is no way to raise a goddamn kid. Dad, the hell is wrong with you? Now, your parents will try to shut you up because they can't answer your questions. Because you and me, we are not the outcome of intelligence. We are just the outcome of sex. The rest of it comes later. Love and care and responsibility. And you need skills to raise a kid. And none of us have it. All of us are winging it. Okay? And then what you do is you have understood that all the things you've accumulated physically, emotionally, intellectually, even spiritually. They mean nothing. So you go around and you begin to challenge everyone. And people are not going to like what you do. No one's going to like your questions. You're going to drive everyone away. Now, don't get me wrong, some people will be attracted to your ideas. They don't know why, and they don't really know the consequences of following your ideas, because it's going to lead them to their devastation. Now, some people on the outside are going to say, oh, he's so arrogant. Why do you want to question Christianity? Why do you want to question African American history? Why do you want to question education? They're there for a reason. You say, no, I don't know why they're there. I don't even know why I'm alive. What's the meaning for my life? Now, two things happen. You have found a certain sort of humility that's very, very unique. You have understood something about the futility of everything that you have touched. Now that is you being passive, you being humble. You understand. But your humility and the questions that come out of that humility is looked upon by others as an immense sense of arrogance. Now, if you're not careful, you will become a Hitler. You will become a Socrates. You will become a Jesus. Because you can now push people around. You ask them questions, and they don't really know how to respond to your questions. You checkmate them. Now, at this stage where you're no longer the child, you're no longer camel, you have become a lion. You devour everything in your way. You show no mercy. You're only humble before your own craft. I don't know anything. I went to school for all these years. I'm not educated. I'm married. I don't know what it means to be in a relationship. I live, but I'm like a walking corpse. Now, no one can see those things about you. Those are the things you whisper to yourself very, very quietly. But even if you were to scream them, no one would be able to understand them. Now, if you're able to untangle yourself from the arrogance of being a lion, devouring everything, if you're able to, and most people aren't. That's why we have cults, we have Jim Joneses, we have David Koresh, all those people. You'll become a dragon, breathes in and out fire. Now you're able to tame the arrogance that lives inside you. You will destroy, but you say, I'm looking for worthy students whose lives I can destroy and then protect. You're just not going to go around asking people questions. See, the problem with Socrates was that he wasn't very trained. He wasn't trained well. He was like a prostitute. He would go to anyone. Anyone who was willing to sleep with him intellectually, he would have a conversation. If you have read the syllabus, there's a section called on the syllabus, The Dangerousness of Reflection. Let me, before continuing with Nietzsche's story, say a couple of things about that. You know, Henry David Thoreau was some guy, little guy, 19 years old, who lived in Massachusetts. He had a brother. They formed a school for kids. His brother died. One day, some teacher the principal came to observe Henry in his class. And then after the observation, he called him in and said, Henry, you need to change your teaching style, man. This is no good. He quit. He walked away. Not too far from the city, but he went to the woods, sat by the river, and said, the trees dance for me. The river sings for me. I have no need for civilization. He wrote a couple of books. And he wrote a couple of books based on a book that was written some 3,000 years ago, maybe 1,500 years. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. Comes from the Hindu tradition. Krishna and Arjuna are the main character of that book. That you're not really who you think you are. In this life, you haven't come to this life as a white man, as a red man. You've come to this life as a black man. And whenever you come to a life, whether you're white, black, blue, whatever, you're going to be burdened by certain history. Know how to behave well. That's the task Krishna gives to Arjuna. You have to kill your father. Kill him. That's your task. You have to walk away from your wife. That's your task. Walk away. That's your fate. Accept it. When Henry David Thoreau reads that book, and what is a book? Nothing but ideas. But rarely do people read a book and all of a sudden become transformed by a book. I'm not talking about inspiration. Inspiration is shit. Inspiration is like pouring some charcoal fluid on charcoal, putting a light to it, it goes up in flames. A second later, it dies down. That's what inspiration is. But some people, when they're inspired, for some strange reason, there is a fan. It keeps fanning the inspiration. It's no longer this light going, flame going up and then dying. It stays alive. That book was able to transform Henry David Thoreau. Ideas. A few years later, there is this brown man in India or South Africa, or maybe India, I'm not quite sure. Mahatma Gandhi. You know what he's reading? He's not reading the Dhammapada. He's not reading the Rig Veda. He's reading on Walden, civil disobedience. And he experienced the same thing that Henry David experienced. He was at the right place, right time. His life was changed forever. And then there was a guy in some cell, some prison, some jail somewhere. I think his name was Martin Luther King Jr. He was reading the works of Mahatma Gandhi. See, Socrates didn't know that ideas can damage people's lives. Not damage in a bad way. Well, in a bad way. Have you ever been married? I want to tell you what happened to my first 12 marriages. It began like Alex's. I went in there being happy, and I thought it's going to stay happy for a long, 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 long time. Then my eyes opened and I realized I'm not happy. I'm miserable. I began to think about my misery a little bit. And that thinking just messed me up, man. I began to see too much, began to know too much. Then I realized I'm going to get married not because I have ability to love. I no longer have. Not because I have the ability to care. I no longer have. I get married for one reason. I have more days behind me than ahead of me. You know what that means? I think more about death than life. I'm getting older, more feeble, more weak. What, you think I want to get old by myself? Who's going to clean me? Who's going to take me to Kaiser? Who's going to change my tubes? I need to get married. Now marriage becomes a political engagement. You know why? Thinking. Now, if you're able to complete, be okay with having lost the innocence, being a camel, becoming a lion, becoming a dragon, becoming a different dragon, at the very end, you understand something so profound, and I'm not quite sure what that is, but you turn into a sheep. You become very innocent. You become childlike. But you're no longer a child who's only 2 and stupid. On the inside, you are clean, but you see all the shit that lives around you, and you walk very, very carefully. Now you have innocence, you're a dove, you're also a fox. So yes, you become arrogant, And then if you're able, you crush the arrogance and you... Anyone else? Jesus Christ.
So, the light's messing with my eyes, and also, I think you should talk to my psychotic father. I think he's going through this process, and I think I'm also going through this process because after a while I got to the point where I realized that like there's so much stuff going on. It's all relative. Like all the people that I see that like maybe going through something or like maybe doing something that I don't agree with or something, I realize it's all because like their lives are completely different. And I live a different life, and like the things I deal with aren't really like as big as like the things like as they seem. Like I don't feel like aligned. I don't anymore feel like I need to challenge all the things that I see, but really just understand them.
My only suggestion, forgive me for interrupting you, is read some good books. If you don't know what good books are, send me an email and I'll send you a list of books. You may not like them because you and I, we come from different traditions and experiences. And just because you read something, it doesn't mean you understand. It's always best to read a book with a teacher. Never trust your own intuition, never trust your own intelligence or your reflective abilities. You're still very, 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 very young. And you have a good amount of emotions about you. Now, more power to you for keeping your emotions down there, not having them explode all the time. But nevertheless, you need someone to kind of give you a certain interpretation of the way things are. If I was to kind of explain what I mean by interpretation, let me give you an example. I hope you don't mind. Do you have any questions before I go on with my interpretation? Sure, you can stand anywhere. What the hell is this? Talia, do you mind turning off the lights? You want to come in? I have made the room very romantic for you. There, is it good?
Yeah.
Thank you. See what happens when people ask good questions? We do all sorts of things for them. I'm not really quite sure at what stage the American psyche changed about its views about life, its views about happiness, its views about money, its views about gender, its views about parents and sex and the rest of it. Because there is a huge shift in the past maybe 25, 30 years. And I can't claim to know all the components. But what I've been exposed to through being in the classroom, and about 99% of my students have been Westerners. And for some strange reason, every class I've had maybe 60, 70% of my students railing against their parents, how awful they are. They come from broken environments. And that never disappears. And it kind of stays inside them for the rest of their life.
Do you experience that in other cultures?
No. Maybe now, and just to be fair, I haven't really lived in other cultures, but you no longer really need to go to other cultures, militarily speaking, to demolish them. Send a couple of videos, Britney Spears and Snoop Dogg, and before you know it, everything about them changes.
So do you think that we are pitted against our previous generations, and that's why that's going on? And it's actual...
Intentionally pitted?
Yeah, it's easier to control us now if we're fighting the government or the generation behind us. People are putting these ideas into the public and breaking down that stuff.
Well, I don't really understand
Like propaganda.
Well,
Yeah.
did you want to Say again?
So you're saying in Western culture, there's a breakdown of
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
And I'm asking if you think that is a pointed thing, intentional, or if that is something that is.
I think if you want to understand the West, you have to travel all the way back to maybe the 13th century. Because what happens in the 13th century, so forget the interpretation, let me just give you a brief history as to why we are the way we are. It shouldn't take too long. For about 1,300 years, 1,000 years, let's just say, we call it the Dark Ages, that Catholicism, Christianity had a very strong presence in people's lives. So if I was to ask you who you are, you would say, a sinner. Now, in today's language, in today's psychology, that sounds very primitive. But for 1,000 years, you knew the sort of animal you were. You are a sinner. Sinners can't be happy. Sinners don't marry for happiness. Sinners don't have children for happiness. Sinners don't go looking for a job to be happy. You are a sinner, man. You are condemned in this place, to this place. You will never taste happiness. Moments of relief, yes. Happiness, never. And God will always judge you. You're not going to steal. Your name and especially your last name, they have great value. Lose your name and society will deem you an outcast. You won't get a job, you won't get married, and even if you do, your children will not be accepted by society. And you have shame, you have guilt, you have remorse. No sex before marriage. You're either a man or a woman. If you're in between, whatever, behind closed doors. You don't smoke. You don't drink. You don't cheat. God is everywhere. Now, imagine that for a moment. If you have human psychology that is in bondage of those concepts, what sort of a social norm do you have? You have people saying hello to each other, sharing. I'm not saying it's all nice and dandy, no. Okay? But there is no confusion as to who you are, and what your life is going to be. Veil of tears. There is not going to be much joy down here. And salvation for you is not marriage, it's not job, it's not music, it's not the creative arts. Nobody cares if you're a Kim Kardashian. In fact, you're an embarrassment if you were to be a Kim Kardashian. And imagine even the relationship you have with money. Go back to the Gospels. The rich young man story. I want to find the kingdom of God. Go sell everything you have. Everything? Get rid of my money? Yes. No, I can't do that.
Not through the needle of an eye, right?
Right. And all of a sudden what you have is even human relationship with money is very different. It's much better for you to be poor than to be rich. Now, the bubonic plague it kind of takes place in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. And within a number of months, almost half the population of Europe just dies. They're just killed. And something very strange happens, you know. You have prostitutes here, you have a brothel here, and you have a monastery here. The bubonic plague hits. Everyone in the monastery dies, but everyone in the brothel stays alive.
Why that is?
It matters very little. But people begin to ask, so people who worship and believe and have faith die. Those who are the sinners stay alive. And for the most part, what happens to the human psyche is, well, what is the justice of God? Years pass. There are a lot of questions, but that's the first hammer. Years pass, and then you have Martin Luther around the 15th century. Now, the Catholics were engaged in selling indulgences that give me money and your soul will maybe taste purgatory for a little bit and then go to paradise. Martin Luther comes about, picks a fight with, he didn't really want to, but it just happens, picks a fight with the church. Now you have two branches. You have Catholics and you have Protestants. Years pass by, and you have Galileo. Galileo comes about and says, oh, wait a minute, you thought that we are the very center of the universe? Not so. You know, it's great to be the center of the universe because that center has been created by God. God has made Earth this way for one reason, human beings. And we have human beings for one reason. God's soul or spirit lives inside them. Not animals, not plants, only human beings. And if God has made such a majestic creature, where should he house them? Earth. So what does that mean? Earth needs to be worshipped. Human beings need to be worshipped. In fact, the solar system, everything in this universe revolves around the earth. Galileo comes about and says, no, that's not the case. It's the earth that revolves around the sun. In fact, the earth is a speck of dust in the middle of nowhere. Imagine for a moment that you've been in this relationship for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And then all of a sudden, you say, oh, my wife's email, she forgot to close her log out. And there is this email from Joe. And Joe has, hey, Jillian, what's going on? It was great to see you last night. It's been great seeing you for the past 48 years. I know, shit, it's true. And then you as a husband say, what? You realize you're no longer the center of the universe. You have never been in the center of the universe. What's going to happen? Faith goes away, trust goes away, love goes away. You look at your life and you say, lie! Everything has been a lie. You're going to be happy? Of course not. So the church tried to crucify him, and they did for the most part, you know. And then comes the Charles Darwin. Now you're jumping through a lot of hoops. Charles Darwin says, you don't really need God for creation. Put a bag of potatoes under your bed in a plastic bag. You know, and after 3, 4, 5 weeks, what you realize is there are flies everywhere. Why? That's how life works. Life has a tendency of recycling itself. In every living thing out there, there is intelligence. Intelligence knows how to survive. It gets rid of the awful things it doesn't need. It protects the things that are good and prospers them. We don't need God. Intelligence. And all of a sudden, say, really? We don't need God? No. And then next comes Karl Marx. You thought you were made in the image of God. No, you're made in the image of desires. And those desires come from society. And the society is created by capitalists. Your image is a mirage. It's the matrix. Yeah, man. You know, yeah. Just 1 minute. And then comes Freud. Devastating. Just absolutely devastating. For all these years, all these centuries, all these decades, we have assumed that we can get to know ourselves, sit in your room and meditate, listen to Eckhart Tolle, listen to Sadhguru, listen to Jesus Christ, listen to Karl Marx. There is a part in us. It all of a sudden just shows its head, and you have no idea why. And it just devastates your life. Like, you're okay right now, you go home, you take a nap, you wake up and you say, I hate myself. But you just like yourself for 12 hours. What's the shift? Don't know. Add to it the fact that you have no choice but to repress most of the emotions that are true about you. You hate society. You hate this class. You hate your marriage. You hate almost everything under the sun, but you pretend. And you even lose yourself more in pretending. And add to it, when you keep pushing your emotions down, you're nothing but a volcano ready to erupt. Every single human being in this room, every single one of us, especially in 2023, with all the crap in the culture. Look at someone in the wrong way, say the wrong thing, and they will explode. It doesn't take very much. I mean, look at what's happening to Oakland in broad daylight. No one cares. And then you have the advent of technology, cell phones. Now, when you put all of those things together, and when you realize the amount of stress placed upon the human psyche, you no longer can think about anything. You're just a bundle of these raw emotions, and those emotions have no choice but tap into your reptilian brain, the brain that's always under stress and wants to find a way to come out and devour, destroy, kill something, hurt something. We are now in the business of creating pain. Yes.
I don't know, something you said earlier, and one of your thoughts. I read this piece of writing, I don't know, it's like 200 years old or something. I don't even remember the guy who wrote it. I'm not going to do it justice, but it was basically about like identities and like the truest state of being, you know, and it's like you will never find the truest state of being without stripping away all your identities, and how like identities are something that come along with like, the progression of society, and how in the Middle Ages the only true meaning was found in like camaraderie with other people working as like a unit, you know, and that like identities were unneeded in that because that was the only part of life that actually mattered.
Right.
I just want to.
I mean, for the most part, it's true. First, you have very small cities. You also had trusted sources, your parents, the church, if you could read the Bible. And so there were only a few people who could tell you who you are and what you are, what things you can and can't do, okay? The story today is very, very different. You have Miley Cyrus, you have Kim Kardashian, you have Jordan Peterson, you have Eckhart Tolle, it's like Costco now. Every aisle tells you can be something different. Now, because I come from a different background, different culture, let me give it to you this way. Can I? How old are you? This culture is going to destroy you. Do you like this class?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I do.
Do you like me?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you do this? Eventually, you have to give yourself to someone. Your boss either will have to create you, okay? Social media will have to create you. Some book out there will have to create you, or me. Give me your life for about 10 years. I will push you to go into philosophy and humanities. You'll be done with everything by the time you're 25. If I'm still alive, come back to this campus. I will get you a job, part-time. You will do what I do much better. You have no choice but to have someone from out there to make and create you. We're all in the hands of something. Let me create the emotions and the thoughts. I will destroy what you have. And little by little, I'll give you some other things. You don't need to take GEs to figure out what you want to do. I'll tell you what you should do. And when you're 25, you'll figure most of it out. You have the proper information, you'll have a job, you'll make money, you'll spend the rest of your days understanding the information that lives inside you. How will you do it? By expressing yourself in the class. As you talk, you see. As you see, you hear. As you hear, you listen. As you listen, you hear. As you hear, you begin to understand. As you understand, you begin to apply. Then when someone says, "Who are you?" "I'm a professor." "What do you teach?" "I'm a philosopher." Now that is who you are. It will only take 10 years. If you don't do it, on the other hand, you're in the land of the vultures. You are this piece of property. Everybody is coveting this property. Your brain, Karl Marx was right. Everybody wants to create desires inside you. Everybody. And if AT&T is successful in creating a desire inside you, despite the fact that your phone may be working, you will find yourself in the shop signing a 2-year lease. Since everybody is after you, let it be me. But you won't do that. It's not possible. So going back to your question, you're absolutely right. You know, when you only have 2 aisles, if you only have a 7-Eleven in your village, well, your options are limited to 10 items. If you have a Costco, you go in there confused, you come out spending $1,000, and then as you're unloading the car, you say, do I really need them? The answer is no, but what else can you do?
So ignorance is bliss. You don't know these other things out there exist. So
No. Ignorance is bliss only for those who have woken up. Only for those who have understood a few things. Marriage is good as long as you don't question it. Going to school is good as long as you don't question it. Believing in yourself is good as long as you don't question it. The moment you question anything, you'll find it interesting, inspiring. Yes, I question now. It feels good. But then after a while you realize, yes, you're questioning, but where the hell are the answers, man? There are no answers, and there won't be any answers for a long time. And when you have no answers, what you have is darkness. And darkness creates confusion, frustration, anxiety, paranoia, sadness, sorrow, depression, loneliness, and in this culture, medication. Listen, before we go home, let me just say this one last thing. You're here only for 3 units and a grade. Do not take these ideas home. Do not think about them. Do not reflect on them. Do not feel them. Do not share them with anyone, including yourself. Once we part ways, if there is a delete button inside you, if you're creative enough to create distractions, distract yourself. Do not think about these ideas. They are not good for us. But if you've been stung and it's difficult to get this thing out, well, you're stuck for a little bit. Have a nice weekend. Stay safe. Tell your parents I said hello. And visit the car wash.
thank you.
Thank you.
Where do you find the syllabus? Did you email us or something?
It's online. It's on Canvas.
It's on.
Yeah. And just click on